The report shows that with devolution, cities have found a new lease of life, among them being Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Machakos, Nairobi and Mombasa. The report scored the respective cities on their performances in areas such as transport, education, health, social care, among many others.
Index is about pointing out areas of strength and areas of weakness so that the urban areas can consolidate the areas of strength and address or reform areas of weakness.
However, amid the great promise that these cities are showing, the report highlights the challenges that they continue to face, creating stumbling blocks towards unlocking their full economic potential.
I don't think they have complete records on which to base planning. So one of the things that's very, very clear is their statistical offices are barely existent. So the data is not necessarily put in the same repository, which allows for quick decision making and for updating on a regular basis. So that's a major one. So many of them in the areas in which they're making decisions are making decisions by just judgment without necessarily some information that supports that. So I think that's an essentially one. The second one is the absence of transparency. Even when they have that data, for some reason counties believe that the information should be kept secret. So some officers would not disclose information even if that information was available. And this index then penalizes them, because if they do not have that information, we ask ourselves how they make the decisions and justify the policies that they do. And secondly, how then do they even measure whether they're making progress on these critical areas.
London, Moscow, Paris, Seoul and even Tokyo, some of the wealthiest cities across the world, generating revenues of over $500 billion on a yearly basis. Now there's a city missing from that list, and that is the city under the sun. Does it have the potential to get to that list? Yes. And the question has far moved from what is it not doing right to what should be done to get it on that list. While challenges continue to dog these cities and slow down their economic growth, Kwame Owino, CEO, Institute of Economic Affairs, says the cities can still get back on the right track. This way, they will be able to set themselves up for economic takeoff in no time.
So the first part is many of them would improve their score on this ranking just by transparency. They can improve it by at least 10 percentage points for each of them, by just making sure that information on policies, information on decisions that are made, and expenditure is just available to the public. So that's transparency is one critical area. I think the other would just be to make choices and to prioritize more clearly. And for instance, many of them have water services reaching, but they do not have regular assessments of the quality of that water. So if they did that as well, and made that information available to people who make decisions about whether to live in one city or the other, I think their citizens would understand the efforts that they're making, and perhaps supplement that with the other resources if they require, because many of them would be asking for rates. So part of that, the big idea here is it doesn't matter how a city is doing, but they need to know where they are so that they can build an appropriate benchmark for their improvement.
The impact of the report cannot be downplayed. Relevant stakeholders say it will act as a guideline in the future county endeavors, as it highlights where cities are and where they could be projected to be in future if the findings are adhered to.
Issues of governance are very dear to us, because we realize that unless we sort ourselves in terms of how we deal with public finance management issues, in terms of observing fiscal responsibility principles envisioned in the Public Finance Management Act, then it will be a tall order for us to be able to achieve our development goals.
With the report now in the public domain, the burden lies with the respective county governments to draw insights and make development decisions backed by the research findings.